Yo, what is up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. It's House Divided. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That's Chad Hastings. We are Orange Bloods Live. We're brought to you by the guys over at Texas Card House. They're all over the state of Texas. You can get in, play cards. If you don't want to go in person, I don't know, you're afraid of people, whatever, you can go play at Hijack. Download the new app inside the state of Texas. You have to be literally inside the state of Texas. I realize that doesn't help our viewers in West Virginia, but it might incentivize you to either visit or move to Texas. But you can play real online poker for cash, and then you can cash out, enter money, go to any of the Texas Card House locations all over Texas. There are 6 of them, one right down the road here in Spring. And of course, we love going to the Texas Card House Social. So yeah, go check it out. It's also a reminder for me, Chad, that it's noon. So I've got a poker tournament to enter.
Of course you do.
I mean, I'm just saying,
hey,
I do love the nooners that they have. And that ought to be like a reference, you know, back in the day, you were a part of a nooner.
Hey, don't make me a part of a nooner. I've been, I have been a part of those. But you would probably give people the advice that if I'm on a show, you can't just be focused on me. You got to have other things going on. You have always counted on online poker to give you that proper distraction.
Well, no, it's back.
Right.
You know, it used to be, it wasn't. It was just, oh.
God, now I have to listen to Chad. Jeez.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. It's understandable. It's understandable.
Chad, let's talk about Jonah Williams, Texas football. We got day 1 in the books. Speaking of getting in the books, Jonah Williams, 5-star, do-everything athlete, one of the real headliners in recruiting. He got an at-bat last night for the 3rd-ranked Texas Longhorn baseball team, which is having a magical season. And he's kind of along for the magic carpet ride. And here we were on day 1 of Texas spring football that just, by coinky-dinky, he got himself a little at-bat last night in a win. They blew the hell out of somebody last night. UTSA, UTA, somebody.
Sam. They beat Sam like 13-3. They ruled them in 7.
Damn, Sam?
They got after him. Yeah, if yesterday needed one more ingredient catch, like on the 40 acres. 40 acres had a lot going on yesterday. You had pro day. You had the first day of spring practice. Add in the new men's basketball coach presser. And then, let's just and recruiting story in women's basketball. Big dog recruit trying to decide ultimately doesn't pick Texas. But then you have that. Jonah Williams, 2-sport, Longhorn fans hope, 2-sport stud. Yeah, give him an at-bat. The at-bat didn't go like he wanted it to, but
good morning, good evening, good night.
Yeah, right. I was going to say, it didn't go exactly like he wanted it to. It wasn't like a Sports Center double off the wall in his first. No, it did not go that way. It was 0 for 1. It was a strikeout, but he's in the game. He's in the arena, as they say, and rocking some awesome hair.
The thing... It's such an interesting topic because one of my first thoughts, and I wrote about this this morning, I put together a 10 thoughts of things I'm thinking, 10 things I think after day 1. And I really take all the new roster and the reports from practice and kind of my initial takeaways, and I put them down. And a lot of it was stuff that we talked about yesterday. So I would imagine there will be some rehashing of kind of big picture thoughts. But one of the thoughts I had was, Jonah Williams, I think, were he healthy, 100% healthy, and I think we have to keep in mind he is coming off of an injury that has limited him on the diamond. So I don't know that we could 100% take it to the bank that he would even be fully released to go in football right now. But Jelani McDonald was in the first-team safety yesterday, and they had Wardell Mack playing first-team nickel. But we know that McDonald is going to play nickel there throughout camp. And I think he's probably the favorite to emerge as the starter at nickel, unless Wardell Camp just comes out of nowhere. And it kind of like Jalen Gilbo did a year ago, where it took Gilbo 2 seasons or a year and a half off of a major knee injury to get back to where he was as a freshman when he actually beat out Jahdae Barron for that nickel job. at the start of the 2023 season. But I think if McDonald ends up the starter in the nickel, then it's possible that without knowing what we're to make of Derek Williams coming off of his own major knee injury, and whenever people say, well, won't Derek Williams go back to the starting lineup? I think at that point it's real easy. We have to remind ourselves, well, maybe, or maybe he's exactly like Jalen Gilbo. Sometimes it takes guys a more than a year to come back. And I think that's one of the things we've got to keep in mind with all of these guys coming off of a major injury. CJ Baxter, there are a few where it's like, man, if they can play this year, fantastic. But, you know, maybe the most realistic expectation is that in 2 years they're back to where they were and everything else beyond that is found money. Well, if Derek Williams is a little slow, or not, maybe it wouldn't matter. It kind of depends on who these other guys are too. Texas, the recruiting never stops. What was interesting to me yesterday was that if McDonald had been at nickel from the jump, I'm pretty sure Xavier Filsaime would have been first team safety. That I think the way they've got these guys aligned, that Filsaime is the backup for McDonald, and Jordan Johnson Rebel is the backup behind Michael Taft. And Filsaime redshirted last year. He's not played a lot of football, and neither has Johnson Rebel. So those two, you could just see a world where if Jonah Williams was on campus and 100% focused on football right now, it's really easy to imagine the world where that guy's playing a lot as a true freshman. And the dynamics of his situation may see it that maybe he doesn't come in day one in the fall and just tear it up. And I think, you know, it's really interesting to have a guy like that who's so talented and yet, you know, has this other interest in baseball, and he's a high-level baseball talent. So it's not like his moonlighting there is a waste of time. It's, you know, he's at least as good of a prospect, I think, as a guy like Ricky Williams was. And we know that Ricky Williams was drafted, signed by the Phillies. That was a guy that moonlighted in the summers as a baseball player. That was always kind of a flyer, whereas Jonah Williams is like, he's got real talent. So I think that it will be interesting to see how his career continues to unfold. But yesterday, day one of spring football, Chad, I missed his presence, knowing that it's out there, and he gets his first at bat in baseball on the day where we first think about him really as a football player. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe you're probably throwing a bone to the guy at that point and saying, hey, stay engaged with baseball. You're here for a reason. I know that football is underway.
ATX Base, I see your super chat. Interesting question, Catch, coming from our guy Chris Bennett. Who was the last football player to take an at-bat in a baseball game? Shea Morentz is Chris Bennett's guess. Has it been that long? Is that right? Like, obviously, the Rickies and Cedric Bensons of the world would have had baseball, but it wasn't Texas baseball. It would have been more, you know, they're doing some minor league. That's a great question. Does it go that far back?
It might. I can't. Nobody's jumping.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm forgetting somebody, but maybe not.
Yeah. But it's an interesting point you're making before we continue the discussion. ATX Bates saw him, $4.99, says, I went to a baseball game a couple weeks ago. Saw Jonah. That dude is built like a brick house and makes almost everyone on the roster seem small. Yeah. It's easy to find him. Easy, not just the cool hair I was talking about earlier, but Jonah is put together. There is no doubt about it. And now, Catch, we'll wait and see. Obviously, this was a Tuesday game. Like you said, I mean, it's a midweek game, and you may have a great point in terms of, you know, knowing that football's starting that day and giving him a little taste of baseball and seeing if he'll stay engaged. Now let's see moving forward in, you know, SEC series that really matter. Is Jonah Williams a part of this thing? Like, does he become some part of the baseball team? Does he get some, you know, at bats here and there, pinch hits?
It's really tough right now.
Right. Cause I mean, this team is rolling. It's got to be a tough thing to find. So that's got to be an interesting battle in his head. Catch, you may very well not know, but do we have any sense of if he was, let's say if he was at the first day of football practice yesterday, limited, like would he still be hurt in football?
Yeah,
terms?
I think he would be limited.
Okay.
But I mean, it's really hard to know exactly what that means. But playing baseball is a little different than playing football. So
yeah.
what that looks like, my guess is that he would still be restricted to some degree, for sure.
And maybe that's the discussion, if indeed Sark and Schloss have any discussions like that, or their training staffs do. Maybe that's part of it too. Like, hey, you guys bring him in slowly in baseball. He's not football ready yet. When he is, we'll talk.
Well, and it sounds like he's going to sit in on some football meetings, so he's not going to be a complete ghost.
Right.
Again, he's a 5-star prospect in football, so there's no way, it's unavoidable to not look at him through football terms first and foremost, with all due respect to like his talent in baseball.
Yeah.
But I looked at the roster yesterday and I thought to myself, if he was 100% locked in football, period, and healthy, that guy could be a day one starter in Columbus. That's how talented he is. And he doesn't have really anybody in front of him. The guys that are in front of him, McDonald moves the nickel. We think that that's a real strong possibility. And then beyond that, you've got Phil Samey, who was a redshirt last year. And
Williams is hurt.
And Derek Williams is coming off of a major injury.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's about as ripe of a scenario for a guy to come in the spring. You almost couldn't, at a school like Texas, because it would have looked a little different last year. There would have been a little bit more of, a little bit more of a weight. There were just a few more older guys. They bring in Makuba. You got the sense that Makuba was going to be a starter, and Michael Taft, they're not bumping Michael Taft out of the lineup. So, I think it's a little more ripe for a guy with that skill set and talent. Look, Phil Samey didn't play at all last year, and he also was a 5-star prospect. Not, I think, the consensus 5-star prospect the way Jonah Williams was, but still a guy that Rivals ranked as a 5-star prospect, insanely talented. And last year, the world was just set up in a way where Phil Samey didn't have a lot of opportunities, I think, to get on the field in year one. He had a guy like McDonald who was in front of him in the pecking order. And whenever Williams goes down, McDonald is ready to go. But we know that McDonald is going to see more time in the slot. And if that happens, it would open the door for somebody to step through the door as a starter on a defense that I think is going to be nationally elite. I am so high on this defense, Chad. It will be the thing that makes this team a playoff team next year. While the offense tries to figure it out and rebuilds, that defense is freaking loaded. And there aren't many spots. Matter of fact, you feel like the edge spots are Ethan Burke and Colin Simmons. It's hard for me to imagine a world, Lance Jackson and or, Justice Terry, or Colton Vassett. Boy, you're going to have to be good to push Burke, who we know is a good player, and he's kind of waited his turn behind Barron Sorrell to become a starter. We know the tackle spots are open, that the transfers are going to come in, and there's going to be a battle, and Alex January, and we know that those spots, but I don't know that an incoming freshman would look at what's going on at defensive tackle. Even Justice Terry would have yesterday have been no better than probably 5th, but maybe 6th, because Travis Shaw wasn't even in the top 4, and he might have been on paper the most high end of the portal D tackles that they brought in. Linebacker, man, they returned everybody that started and played at the end of the year other than David Benda. They replaced him with Brad Spence, who on paper looks like a better player. And then in the secondary, there's a little bit of unprovenness there, but talent everywhere, to the extent that you got guys 5 stars like Jonah Williams and Xavier Filsaime, who aren't automatic bump ups into the lineup just because of their recruiting rankings. And you've got guys like Derek Williams who aren't automatic starters to return because the talent in their positions is so extreme. If the offense were as good as the defense, Texas wins the national championship next year because I think defensively they're going to be sensational.
Catch, somebody mentioned Makuba in a chat a second ago. Knowing what they have, and you just mentioned D tackle where we know they've already worked the portal. Knowing what they have at this position group, do you foresee them looking at another Makuba type in this next portal?
No.
They don't need it.
They got bigger fish to fry.
Gotcha. Okay.
The thing is, they have the type of talent that you really don't want to impede their progress.
Gotcha. Okay.
They got Makuba.
Even with the injuries. Even with the injuries.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, because I don't know that you could get anybody in the portal that has as much upside as the guys that they have. And I think we started to see that with McDonald at the end of last season. He was good. I mean, when he was on the field, you felt like, oh, okay.
Yep.
I know that guy was a super blue chip, and then you could just eyeball that and go, I get it. And whenever that kid gets the harness in his hands, you can see where that guy's got a chance to be an absolute NFL football player. That guy only really gets on the field the way that he did because of injury. It was a real, sometimes you're just lucky that way. And, I think they've got that in Jonah Williams and Phil Samey and some of the guys that they've recruited. Sometimes you got to let those guys, you got to let the big dogs hunt. And, and so and boy, they need to pour everything into offense because we can continue the discussion, but I think they need 2 wide receivers. I think they need a running back. I think they need a couple of offensive linemen. I think they need a tight end. I think they need a kicker. I just got to 7, Chad.
Yeah, you did. You're right. No, that's fair. That is fair. And to the Jonah Williams discussion, Joseph threw out the guess of Quan Cosby. Joseph, as somebody put in the chat, same thing as Ricky and Cedric. Did he play baseball? Yes, he played minor league baseball. Didn't play at Texas. That would have been a scene if Quan Cosby had donned that uniform, but he did not do that. Catch, I'm old enough to know what this name means. Is Jonah Williams similar to a Sean Taylor level player at safety? Huge safety prospect? ? With all due respect to Jonah Williams' talent, is it that level for you, Catch?
Well, there's just different types of talents.
Okay.
I mean, I think you can look at Jonah Williams and make a case that he could be help at wide receiver. I mean, he was a 5-star athlete and a guy that you could see playing linebacker in time. You can see at safety. I think he could play wide receiver.
Was he one of those dudes in high school that did a lot?
Yes.
A lot of positions.
Wildcat quarterback. Like he was.
Yeah.
He played, he did everything to play the drums at halftime.
Some of them do that, by the way.
And the concessions in the second half. I think he sold those in the first half. So, they're different guys. Sean Taylor felt like a safety. That guy was born to play safety. I don't think Sean Taylor I think in terms of who they were as prospects coming out, like, yes, Jonah Williams has a potential 1st round grade as a football player. And when you hear 5 stars, that's what they mean. They think in 3 or 4 years, he gets drafted in the 1st round and kind of at worst day 2, but even day 2 feels like, okay, well, that was a miss because you'll find guys that end up being like super blue chips, high 4 stars that end up going in round 1. And you'll go, oh, that guy was ranked. Kelvin Banks is a perfect example. He falls into the category of super blue chip. He falls. All I care about is that they're kind of in this area. But rivals, and they've admitted it. Adam Gorney has come out and said, we screwed up. We screwed the pooch with regards to Kelvin. He did it on our show. Kelvin Banks' ranking, that he should have been a 5-star. And, so I think the first round grade always historically is what they look to kind of justify, did we get this right or not? That's what they think of Jonah Williams. And that's what Sean Taylor was.
Trying to imagine Adam Gorney actually using the phrase "screwed the pooch." That's why I laughed there. That just does.
I think Adam has that inside of him.
I think he does. I don't know that he's ever said it out loud on our show, but
screwed the hippo is his preferred screwing.
I would love to hear it, though. I would love to hear it. We see a couple good chats here we will get to in this discussion. Thanks to over 500 of you in that Specs chat. Also, thanks to our great partners. Let's see if we can get you a little hungry and talk a little Hayes City Store. I also have the new picture. Let's put the new picture up for you. There it is. Nighttime at Hayes City Store. Go at night. Go during the day. Go whenever you want. I cannot guarantee that you'll see Jeff Ketchum's favorite new hot mom. Yep, there she is. She's right there. Now there's the QR code.
She done. Oh, thank you for. I mean, it's a nice butt.
She looks good in a pair of jeans. She does. What was that old song? Baby got her blue jeans on. Remember that one? How's it going?
She knows those look good too.
Yes,
those
she does.
Did not get put on by accident.
Catch, if you're gonna go to Hayes City Store at night, LC Rocks is playing. And you have a baby. You are a new mom. You got it, baby Bjorn, all up right on the front of you. You still want to show everybody, hey, I'm a mom now, but I'm a hot mom. And they got all the food, all the drink, all the atmosphere you could ever want out there at Hayes City Store. Go see them. Tell them we said, hey. Make sure you're not in a hurry. It is a wonderful time out there in Driftwood. And they also have that new ice house area with even more screens, and they've always got games on. Last time I was out there, they had it was like conference tournament time, I think, and there was some women conference tournament games on, men's games. It was really cool, so go check them out. All right, a couple of chats came in that I kind of liked, but you know what? Jared knows the rules. Super chats go to the top. It came in while I was talking about Hayes City Store. Jared, thank you very much for $4.99. I was at the ball high game. The ball high game? Sark was in his helicopter. First play, kick return.
At the Galveston ball game.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Yes. Galveston ball, Jonah Williams. Gotcha. The helicopter game. First play, kick return, touchdown, then caught a pick and pointed at Sark. He is unreal. Jared, thank you for that memory. That was pretty cool, Catch. When you're that level of I know when you're that level of a recruit, your whole life is cool, but when Sark lands in a helicopter and you get to have a badass performance and point at your future coach, that's pretty cool, right?
I mean, I think Jonah just called that Friday.
Yeah, right.
I think that's all he called it. But yeah, man, look, he's a special football. He's a special athletic talent. I can't wait to see what he does. And, again, I think it says a lot about his talent that on the first day of spring football, his not being there was one of the things that I couldn't help think about.
Yeah.
And, there were thoughts about a lot of the true freshmen that showed up. We talked about Justice Terry yesterday and 6'5", 263. I mean, that tells a story. So I had my thoughts on a lot of the true freshmen. Dalen McCutcheon, the first true freshman working with the ones on either side of the ball, a little by default because DeAndre Moore obviously out of the lineup. But, it was hard not to think about the fish yesterday. And even one in Nick Townsend when we talk about the tight end position where it's like all of these guys are mostly here. There's only 5 that didn't arrive early. It's hard not to look at the tight ends yesterday and think to yourself, I wish Nick Townsend were here because all hands on deck. They need help there.
Yeah, and Catch, you mentioned Dalen McCutcheon. That's going to be a fascinating one to follow because you want to know how much are we talking about get to play versus have to play in this early going with the injuries that we've talked about. Is that a have to play Or are we going to get down the line and go, no, it wasn't just about bodies. The dude's got it. So let's see what the level is there, because we know it's a talented class. Got to find out how talented it is.
Chad, we talked about wide receivers real quick. The real newsy thing from the day today is that a guy that we talked about yesterday not showing up on the roster, Alex Dunlap had mentioned, didn't see Freddie DeBoe Jr. on the roster. 24 hours later, it's confirmed he's no longer in the program. Okay. Texas down to 81 scholarships. They're down to 8 wide receivers, which is crazy because I think at one point in Sark's first year with all of the leftovers from Tom Herman, I think that number got up to 17. I think that was the high water mark. And Sark had come in saying, there are too many receivers on scholarship at this school.
I'm all for
especially
5
since
wide.
None of them can play.
Right. I'm all for 5 wide, but the math does not work when we get up to 17 guys.
So they're down to 8. Of that 8, 6, look, I would say 6 are just completely void of real game of experience. It should be noted, Parker Livingstone played 22 snaps last year. If that counts as real game, because technically it is literal real game experience.
Right. And let's be fair. You didn't say targets and you didn't say catches. You said snap. Okay. Just to make sure.
Basically at the end of games when knees were being taken.
A snap.
And handoffs were going to walk on tailbacks.
Right. A snap that snaps that, to be fair, you and I did not get, but you and I could have pulled those off.
Yes.
Even at our age, I could pull that.
I would have hurt the next day, but yes, I could have pulled them off. So, there is just a little bit of, to me, it's glaringly obvious they have to go into the portal. And they needed to go into the portal in early in January. And they brought in, we know they coveted 2 of the wide receivers. As we discussed yesterday, the timing was just impossible. It just was impossible. They could not have gone out and made a major wide receiver acquisition without it disrupting
an attempt at a national title.
Well, just from a retention standpoint.
Well, that too, right.
To get a guy like Eric Singleton or the kid from UCLA or USC that went to
Branch.
Thank you. In that situation came with a twin brother. There was some, but it was going to cost well in excess of $1 million. And nobody on the Texas roster made $1 million last year in NIL.
Because all those retention guys are paying attention to those moments. If you go paying those guys, then they're really going to come for a discussion.
Yeah, and it would have impacted. I mean, if you're Anthony Hill and or Colin Simmons, and Eric Singleton is on the verge of getting 1.5 as a transfer. What are you asking for if you're a returning difference maker on a national championship contender? So they were just in a really tough spot where being overly aggressive in the portal would have thrown the dynamics of the pending retention, which they will tell you they kept everybody but Amari Niblack. Everybody. So they felt like it was a rousing success. And who knows, maybe they still would have kept everybody in a world where that happens, Chad, but it probably costs millions more to go into negotiations with your returning guys and be in a situation where the floor is, well, this guy got this and he ain't played for us. So pay me more than that, and I just think it just would have been insanely complicated. But what it has done has left them in a position where we're now saying in late March, oh man, in a month from now, they got to find somebody. They got to go get somebody. And I have a weird sneaking suspicion that they will. I have a sneaking suspicion that they're going to get at least somebody will pop into the portal and we'll go, oh, never would have guessed that guy was going to be in. I think there are a lot of agents that have been telling players this spring is the new time to enter the portal. That is, and we saw it with defensive tackle a year ago.
Dominic Williams.
That dude wasn't even that good last year, Chad.
That was when he did it. Yeah.
And people were breaking their necks. That guy was trying to tell people, I want $1 million. Nobody ever went to that lengths to get him, but he got high, mid six figures.
Yeah. So to this discussion, thanks, Big Cheddar, for throwing this question at Catch. And you realistically believe Texas can find all those positions in the spring portal? You listed off multiple positions earlier that you think they will be looking at. Realistically,
Chad, I did not say that. Don't put words into my mouth.
No, I'm saying earlier you listed off the positions that you thought they could get, and now Big Cheddar's asking you realistically believe they can find all those positions.
I did not say that. I said after day one, I felt like this is what they need.
Right. Okay.
On offense.
So
it's not the same thing as saying I realistically believe that Texas can find all of those positions in the spring portal. Don't know that. Gotcha. What I do feel comfortable saying is they'll find a wide receiver. And I bet they find a running back. Don't know about tight ends and offensive linemen. I mean, we've not seen them break their necks to do that with offensive linemen in the past. Mm-hmm. And tight ends are hard to come by. It's what made the kid that came from Purdue a bit of a unicorn. Like, they suck, but he was really good.
That feels like a big miss.
But I just described the dynamics in play that made that difficult. And, it is kind of what it is.
Yeah. And I guess we'll have to see about if you're right about it being a different type of spring portal. I wonder are we going to see guys that feel more like a Dominic Williams type? Is that what it's going to be again? Or are we going to see, to your point, is it going to be a higher level? Is the level going to notch up a little bit in this spring portal when we hit April 15th?
I think the word is out. The best way to leverage your power as a player is to, I think, wait through the spring. Because the schools that will have there will be injuries this spring. There will be schools that find themselves in maybe more dire straits than they would have imagined. And, and I also think there's a greater sense of schools that'll know what their budget looks like. There are schools that won't, that will know, hey, we've got that settlement money that we now feel really good. So I think some schools have been patient with that.
God, we don't even know about that officially yet, do we?
If it doesn't happen, a lot of schools, including Texas, are screwed.
Yeah, that's it. And that's supposed to happen in April, isn't it? Isn't that decision coming in April?
Coming up. Choo-choo.
What in the world?
Chugga.
That is crazy. By the way, did you see how many basketball guys got in the portal on day one?
700 plus.
Over 750 is the number I saw. What in the world? I'm telling you. And Catch, the one thing moving forward that every one of these major, all sports, but these two big dog sports, football, men's basketball, might want to figure out when the portal should happen and when it shouldn't. Because if y'all can't figure out that it shouldn't happen in the middle of a basketball tournament and right in the middle of spring practice, I don't know what to tell you. Like, that's just the dumbest timing. There's dumber timing. You could do it right in the middle of the season, I guess, but come on. We can't figure out.
It's fascinating that you punish the bet. Is this college sports' way of the NFL giving the last draft picks to the best teams?
I guess. Did you see Tom Izzo throw his little fit, which I understood?
I did, but when Tom Izzo is like complaining that it's not about recruiting anymore, it's just about the offer. And it's like, well, isn't that how coaches get hired?
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. But
all of your contemporaries, don't they get hired based on someone came in and offered big
the portal opens the Monday that the Sweet 16 has been set. And to his credit, J.J. Watt threw it out on social media. It'd be like if the free agency in the NFL began right after Wild Card Weekend. Who the hell would ever do that? Like, that's crazy. Anyway.
Football has it worse. They just do.
No, and football's is even crazier.
There's less teams. And nobody will ever be nobody found themselves going, oh, boo, Texas and Ohio State didn't get a chance to pilfer and raid the portal like they wanted to because boo-hoo, they were playing in national semifinals.
Yes.
Touche. Fair enough.
Woe is them. But Catch, I think there are a lot of fans maybe thinking what Sailor Joe is thinking. He threw this chat in earlier. Who are some players we got during the spring portal that made a major difference in recent years? I'm worried about relying on a portal player this close to next season.
Well, I mean, last year, Bill Norton, Jermaine Lole were both, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right.
Post-portal guys. We know that Silas Bolden is a guy that I think at the end of the year they were using more than at the beginning of the year. And maybe some of that had to do with the Isaiah Bond injury. But look, Silas Bolden could have played more. The bar at wide receiver is so insanely high.
Yeah, Matthew Golden showed up and had some stuff to do.
The bar at starting outside wide receiver at Texas is day 2 NFL draft pick at worst. That's the bar. That's what it took to get to a national semifinal. Had they not gotten Adonai Mitchell the year before, had they not gone out and been so aggressive with Isaiah Bond and Matthew Golden, they don't make the national semifinals without those same additions. Think about how they won the Arizona State game. Think about how important Matthew Golden was. And he was important mainly because the other guy, Isaiah Bond, got hurt. Like, where would they have been without those guys a year ago? They would not have been as good of a football team. And I think that that's the new bar. So whenever people, some people think, Chad, we're just at this point where if I'm critical at all, and by critical, I mean, if I just don't slurp a guy on this team, that I get told that I hate said player. Parker Livingstone is turning into one of these guys that people think that I hate. And it's like, well, no, Parker Livingstone is really talented. And so yesterday he's running with the first team offense. Parker Livingstone's never done anything. I can't say that Texas shouldn't go out into the portal and get an alpha number 1 lead receiver on a team looking to compete for a national championship this season, because I'd like to see this guy develop, on the fly as a redshirt freshman with 22 snaps under his belt. I don't even know if he's good enough because, again, the bar isn't can he play college football? Can he be a good player? The bar is next season. If Texas wants to be as good as they've been, they need day 2 at a minimum guys right then and there. Not day 2 in 3 years, not day 2 in 2 years. The bar, based on what Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell and Matthew Golden and Isaiah Bond and eventually Ryan Wingo, what they're telling us is this is the bar. This is the bar.
Yeah. And, oh, by the way, you start in Columbus. Oh,
and I've already been asked in the last week. This is funny, Chad. Texas by 10 plus in Columbus. I sold that. The guy that asked me that question told me I can't wait until September 1st when I get to pop this back up. I was like, I hope you do.
I would hope he does too. That would be terrific. But
you get to have a parade in your honor.
Yeah, that was bold.
If Texas wins by 10 plus, that guy gets a damn parade, Chad.
He does. He absolutely does. By the way, just a quick check catch. I know there's been a lot of great new content on orangebloods.com lately. Any truth to the rumor that there'll be an all positive column called Slurpa Guy coming up? Because I think that'd be an excellent name.
Any thought to that? Impossible. It's not impossible.
The SAG article. Slurper guy. Yeah, that's what it'll be.
I do feel that way because, it's like I can't, we just get to a point where it's like when you talk about the realities of Texas's existence,
right?
An insanely high bar. We're not talking about, they got their 2 years running in the national semifinals. You don't get there by coaching up like mediocre players. That's not how it happens.
It's one team, right? There's one team that's been in the last 2 Final Fours, and it's them. Like this is rare air we're discussing.
And so when I talk about like, I don't know if a guy's good enough, I'm not saying that I don't know if the guy's good enough to ever play.
Right.
I don't know if he's ready to play at the level that this team is demanding this position play at in order to accomplish the things that they want to accomplish. In fact, I'm almost certain they're not. They have currently, with DeAndre Moore out, walk-ons are running with the second team offense. Still don't understand Ryan Niblett on defense. You've got a true freshman running first team slot, and you've got 2 true freshmen running second team wide receivers. And they're young.
Yeah.
And as good as Ryan Wingo was a year ago, and partly he wasn't ready to really contribute because he played blind, but it's a lot you can go back through the history of Texas football, the number of guys that have been staggeringly good as true freshmen at wide receiver. Man, it's like you can count them on 3 fingers. It's 4. It's Roy Williams and B.J. Johnson. And part of that was those guys both showed up and started day one. So, and they had an NFL quarterback throwing them the football, although Major was there too. But, you had Sims and Applewhite throwing the ball, those guys. Like they walked into gravy situations.
Mm-hmm.
It's Xavier Worthy, who rewrote freshman records. And then Ryan Wingo's season a year ago, about as good as a true freshman kind of gets. Almost a little bit less than 500 yards, good yards per catch, has a couple of pop plays. There's not many better freshman seasons ever at Texas at that position. So, to say that all of these guys that have not played yet, really, I think you can kind of bank on, what? If one of those guys is a real breakout player, isn't that a huge win? Because that is a lot to ask of guys immediately. Come in for the number, let's say, Texas go either be number 1 or number 2 when the national polls come out.
Sure.
Be a freshman starter on that team? It's a lot to ask. If you could get one of those guys that's ready to be as good as Ryan Wingo was a year ago, that's a win. You still need a couple of older guys, I think, to come in and carry the load, take pressure off of everybody. If Ryan Wingo ends up being a 1,000-yard receiver, it's because he's so good that he couldn't be contained. Mm-hmm. But I think to even ask, you know what? Ryan Wingo better be a 1,200-yard receiver this year or else, because we've got nobody else. Or, boy, what happens if Ryan Wingo gets hurt? Because we saw a year ago, Bond got hurt. If Matthew Golden's going to end up being the first or second wide receiver taken in the draft, that was the guy waiting in the wings to make up the Isaiah Bond loss.
Yep.
That is not what we're currently talking about. And it's because none of these guys are transfers. And you know what? Had he not been there, you would have had a 40-catch, 700-plus yard, 5-touchdown receiver in Silas Bolden coming in potentially into that role. You just would have had guarantees on a box that this team doesn't have. And all of my concerns for this team are on offense right now. And none of them are at quarterback. It's the damnedest thing, Chad.
Yeah, well, day one of practice, we'll see how it progresses. But there were reports of really pretty balls being thrown. We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that because there were some times where maybe
on the same day as we is the same day we start the SAG content piece. We'll start the Pretty Balls Thrown content piece on the exact same day. It'll be theme month on Orange Bloods.
Yeah. How'd that pass play start? Oh, it started great. How did it end? Let's not worry about that now. Let's not worry about that part of it. We'll get to that part later. All right. Thanks to damn near 700 of you in that Specs chat. Let's check Lisa and Specs out real quick. Here she is with all kinds of selections.
As a Texas family-owned business, we know you don't mess with Texas. And you won't find more ways to raise a glass of Texas-made cheer than right here. So whatever you're planning, we're ready to get you ready. Because at Specs, the fun.
Yes, indeed. Texas football cranked up. Spring ball. It's day 2 as we are talking to you here on this Wednesday. All right, Catch. We started with some Jonah Williams discussion. First at bat. Talked about some other football stuff. Talked about transfer portal stuff in the spring. What else is jumping out to you right now? I guess we're technically, a day and a half in, but 2 days of practice effectively in for Texas football. What else is jumping out?
It jumps out that everybody looked at the quarterback position and felt comfortable and confident. And, I think it's a real slept on piece of the puzzle that on day 1 from a leadership performance, and look, it was football in shorts and t-shirts. So you don't get too crazy, but Arch was answering all the questions that you would want him to answer. And I don't think anybody walked away feeling like, oh, you know what? Arch needs to be more vocal. Or you know what? It felt like about as seamless as a day 1 quarterback exchange as one could have. And that probably doesn't register as big news when you consider Arch is in his 3rd spring, his 3rd season. That's be a real problem if it wasn't, but we shouldn't not completely acknowledge it either. Or can't take for granted that the most important position on the field feels like in good hands. Because I think, man, right now on offense, Arch is that's your calling card. And it's surrounding him with the pieces that will allow him to be effective that are kind of where we are. And, so I think that stood out to me. I think this is a real credit to the coaches. And we brought this up, I thought yesterday, but I'll say it again. This is new rules in college football allow for more analysts, more position coaches, assistant position coaches. So yesterday would have been day 1 of this new world where there's 20, 25. I don't even know what the damn number is.
Well, isn't it also true, Catch? Is this our first season where everybody can be on the field, or was that true last year?
No. First season.
Okay.
So that the reports were that after every play, it felt like there was a coach for every 2 or 3 players.
Yeah, Jason said that yesterday.
That was occurring and it didn't feel clunky. That practice seemed seamless and quick and moving and paced, and nobody said that it felt like a day 1 practice because of the pausing and because of them trying to still
Right. And it feels like, correct me if I'm wrong, Sark to me feels like the kind of guy whose temperament would show up if it wasn't that way. Like if it felt clunky to Sark, if it felt wrong to Sark, don't you think he would have let somebody know?
I think it would have been apparent.
Yeah.
Even
in the open media session.
Head coaches hate sloppiness. And they really hate sloppiness when it's their sloppiness.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a coach will never yell at anybody like he yells at another coach because they think that coach is not doing the thing they're asking their players to do.
Yeah.
So, I didn't think it was a completely insignificant thing that quarterbacks and coaching and all of the chaos that all of that can be didn't feel chaotic. I'm not saying we should all go pat everybody on the back and say national championship after day one. It just feels like if those things were the other way, we'd be talking about.
Yeah. No, you're right.
That if Arch was sailing balls and seemed timid and the coaches, it felt like practice wasn't even early on running smoothly because there were too many damn people on the field. Feels like we would talk about that. And we didn't. And I think it bodes well for I think I bring it up more than anything because it really, I think, speaks to this feels like a team that's really reloading. They have high expectations. And for all of the stress that we'll put on the needs that they still have, I think that need to be addressed. This is a bona fide top tier team coming into next season. The bar is win a national championship. So every day when we have conversations about what this program needs this year to further itself, it's with that as the goal. If the goal is make the playoffs, they could probably do that the way they're currently built. But that's not the bar that's been established. That's not the bar they're aiming for. And thus we end up having, I think, a lot of conversations where it sounds like you guys are being critical. And it's like, well, no. The criticalness is not that they're failing. It's that they're trying to succeed at such a high level that you have to talk in the level. You have to talk in Ohio State terms and Georgia terms.
Right. They've gotten to
you're talking about the program wrong.
Yeah, they've gotten to where they can see the gate 2 years in a row. They haven't gotten to the gate yet, and they certainly have not opened it or knocked it down or whatever your analogy is. By the way, Barb's 10 throwing in the question. Let's clarify it. Wait, so no more restrictions on coaches on the field. Correct, Barb's 10. And this, I'm not just talking about practice. We're not just discussing that. This is in-game, on the field. Every Will Muschamp, Charlie Strong, Gary Patterson, Major Applewhite, whoever you've got that you're car washing or that you're bringing back around or whatever, they can all be on the field, and they can.
Gary Patterson could have been on the field were that hire made 2 years later.
On the field, theoretically, if they want him to have a headset, he's got a headset. Could he call play? He could do anything he wants. I mean, theoretically, anything Sark would want him to do, he could do it. So that starts this year. And Catch, it's a fantastic point, not just for Texas, but as we watch this college football season, what will the sloppy versions of that look like? And how many veins will pop out of foreheads of head coaches when they see the sloppy version of that, whether it's at practice or specifically if it's in a game? Look out. That could be a really interesting thing. If it costs you a moment, if it costs you a possession, costs you a timeout, costs you a game, holy mackerel.
So, other things that stood out, if we go position by position, I think nothing at the running back position. I mean, nobody was really talking a lot about that yesterday. It's those linebackers and running backs are kind of the forgotten men in the first few days of practice.
Right. Are you, real quick on running backs, are you watching the Christian Clark thing with any true interest? Like the fact that it's kind of like it's better than they thought it was? Like, is there any part of that you're really paying attention to, or are you just, that's way down the line?
That's not on my radar. Like it's a cool story.
Right.
But like, I'm not looking. I hope we don't see him, quite frankly. Like let that kid get right. The one thing I don't want to do with an Achilles injury is rush a guy back. I don't care how advanced he is. Like, it just feels like one of those injuries I take no chances with. For me, it's like a hamstring injury during the season where, guy feels like he can come back and you're like, oh, it's a little early. Yeah. But he says he feels good. And like, we've ramped it up and we think, you're like, yeah, but the doctors are warning us that, we got to be careful. Don't want to rush it. Because what happens the first time that guy goes,
Yep.
It's like, oh, that's a month. We screwed it up.
Then he's spiking his helmet like Isaiah Bond did
last
year because he's pissed off. Yeah. That's a good call. All right.
And with an injury like that, it's not like, oh, he's set back a month. So,
Right.
no, he's not on my radar at all.
Okay. I'm sorry. I interrupted you there. You wanted to roll through, just kind of look at the different positions and kind of give your thoughts?
Sure. I mean, I think on the tight end side of things, it's impossible not to notice that Spencer Shannon was getting some reps. He also saw he didn't play enough last year to letter, but he played enough that he played.
So tell me real quick, what's the thing? I saw Alex reacted, you reacted, others reacted. Was the story about Shannon simply that he got those reps?
I think so. I mean, he's running with the first team.
Okay. The fact that he was with the first team.
He was like leading the tight end group.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
And he wasn't a factor at all with the tight end group a year ago. He was, he was fourth or fifth in line when you think about Helm and Nye Black and Juan Davis. I mean, those were the three guys that dominated the snaps. Jordan Washington also played ahead of him a little bit. So, it was – look, they're empty beyond Jordan. And the thing about Jordan Washington is he shows up weighing 268 pounds. That was a guy that a lot of people thought was an H-back.
That's a big tight end, dude.
He's the heaviest tight end on campus.
Catch. What's that cat that played for the Saints and made the crazy catch against the Cowboys with the Rams? Jared Cook. Was that his name? That dude felt like 268 every time I saw him play, but I can't remember another one that big.
Yeah. Jared Cook.
That dude, right? That was a big-ass tight end, but normally they're not that big.
So we'll see. Like, I don't think there's any look, they need all the help they can get, or they're going to I think they have to go into the portal anyway. They have to.
I do, yeah.
Because if you think the experience at wide receiver is limited, let me walk you over to tight end.
Right. It's just all about that trust thing. Who can you count? You feel like you can count on Arch, but you got, like, to your point, who's productive around him, especially with the DeAndre Moore injury. Like, once that goes down, it just changes everything. When you consider what you're losing, I recently rewatched Texas Ohio State and get it off my DVR and just watching like the things Gunnar Helm could do for that team. And I'm thinking, whew, boy, you got to figure out a way to find the new version of that. And that's not an easy thing to just say, oh, well, let's just get another Gunnar Helm.
And it's not like Gunnar Helm came out of obscurity. He played a lot in 2023 as the guy behind Jatavian Sanders.
True.
And the expectation was always, okay, it's his turn to step up. He's played. Now, nobody went into last year. I take that back. There were a few people that legitimately were asking me, do I think he's going to perform better than Jatavian Sanders? And I was like, come on, guys. And they were like, no, that's what I think is going to happen. And they proved to be more right than wrong. So, I think there's a guy at another website that covers Texas that's thrown around 60, 70 pass completions this year for Jordan Washington. That sounds fucking insane to me.
Man, that does seem like a lot.
Insane. But I won't completely dismiss it out of pocket because I kind of dismissed Gunnar Helm performing at Jatavian Sanders levels like that. But I need to see a lot more from Jordan Washington. And I don't think anybody ranked Jordan Washington higher than I did in recruiting. I think I had him number 25 in the state, and I don't think anybody had him ranked that high. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Look, I'll look it up real quick just out of curiosity. I don't want it to be like, here goes Catch hating on something that somebody at another website says.
Here he goes.
It's not like that. I had the guy ranked as a mid 4-star guy and number 25 in the state. Let me just look, just to be clear. Just so that y'all don't think I'm hating on Jordan Washington, because I hate on everybody that I don't. Chad? What don't I do?
Man, always hating on him. Never
slurp.
Never giving anybody any credit. He never slurping a guy.
I have to take it back.
Never slurp Catch. That's what they call him.
I need to go double check my final ranking of Jordan Washington. On3 might have slipped me by one. They had him at 24. 24/7 had him at 56. ESPN had him at 92. Rivals did not have him as a state top 100 guy. I had him ranked really, really high. So Believe me, if he hits, I will be patting myself on the back, reminding everybody how high I ranked him, which is fair because I do it with all the guys I miss on as well.
Yes.
I do not run from my mistakes, but yeah, I do from time to time tout my celebration. I celebrate my wins.
If y'all want to throw a super chat in, we'll get to it. A couple of decent chats have come in talking about the football team on day 2 of spring practice. We will do that. We got buy or sell coming up, which we didn't get to do yesterday. So looking forward to that. Also, let me hit a little sinus and snoring specialist real quick. One of my favorite places. And I told y'all this week I was going in for my yearly physical, which I did yesterday. Best part of it, every question I answered, you go through the pre-questioning and everything, there get the updated info. Everything about sleep, I just gave them all the positive stuff. Do you have any trouble with snore? No. Do you have any allergy? Nope. Do you have any sinus? Nope. Because of sinus and snoring specialists. I went in 2017. I wish I had gone earlier. They got everything taken care of for me, and they can do the same for you. If you are snoring, if you've got the sleep apnea, remember, sleep apnea means you stop breathing during the night multiple times. For me, it was like up around 30 times an hour. Once you hear that number, it will change the way you think about it. You realize, oh, wait a minute, I got to figure this out. For my wife, it was over 60 times per hour. Was up into that severe category. And we've gotten that taken care of. And she sleeps great. You can do the same thing. Sinus and snoring specialist, 601-0303. Secure calls and text to that number, or just get sinussnoringent.com. Sinus and snoring specialist. Feel clear, rested, and healthy. All right. We had some chats coming in. Let's see if any super chats came in while I was talking. It happened last time. It did not happen this time. And Pete, how dare you? No, I will not cough for you. No, that's not what's going on. Real quick, Catch. I know you were going through the offensive side of the ball, but just a quick question from Uncle Mickey. Where do you see Brad Spence fitting into the rotation at linebacker? You kind of mentioned him earlier. He's front and center, right?
I mean, I think he fits into the David Bender role from a year ago. So when they need to be a little more stout, when they need a little more physicality, I think you'll see him play more. So I think he's got a big role in SEC games. And I think he's a guy that they're going to find a way to get on the field in pass rush situations. 5.5 sacks last year. I mean, this is a guy that knows how to get to the quarterback. I think seeing how they use him will be interesting. And maybe we'll hear more about them than we actually see, given that I think he's a weapon on defense that's a little bit of a luxury for them, and how they use him, I think, will be fascinating to watch unfold. I don't know that we completely know.
By the way, I'm into the jerseys, Catch. Weird number for him. 14? Brad Spence? Linebacker at 14? That's going to look weird. That's going to be a tough one to get used to. Thank you for that, chat. Also, just a weird kind of general question from Drew, Catch, but I like it because I'm sure a Longhorn fans thought of it. How does this offseason compare to the post-Michigan victory in the Rose Bowl to the Natty run with Vince? Trying to make an 04-05 parallel, and obviously it
doesn't.
I see what Drew's trying to do. I do. I see it.
Drew, I see what you're trying to do, and it just doesn't.
Yeah, I couldn't make that direct comparison.
This team lacks all of the things that 2005 team had.
Yeah.
Really.
If you just go through some of the key elements, especially offensively that you're talking about, Catch, boy, that team had them. That team had a lot of them.
Arch isn't Vince, just not.
No.
And because but Vince was so proven that, by the time you're talking about that offseason, Vince could Jim Jones everybody if he'd wanted to.
I mean, 04 was the season that contained the Kansas moment, right? We'd already seen that. We'd seen the Michigan. I mean,
there was no social media. It's almost hard to explain how big Vince was coming out of the 04 season into the 05 season. By 05 was one of the first seasons where offensive linemen made a point and defensive linemen made a point to do 7-on-7 drills themselves. Previous to that, they'd always been kind of more observers than anything else. And yet you had Casey Studdards and the Justin Blaylocks and the Jonathan Scott. I mean, it's just different. It's different in terms of, I can remember the summer in between that summer. So a couple of months, Casey Studdard walking around the practice fields in the summer, eating a pizza because he knew he was a bona fide badass and owned his share of the locker room in a way that kind of reminds me, once upon a time, Casey Hampton was famous for walking around campus with a boombox on his shoulder, and he would be in the dorm rooms. He was kind of the Radio Raheem of the football program, just loud boom. And it was like, who's going to tell him no? Who's going to tell Casey Studdard, don't eat pizza on the field? There was a upper class dominated vibe with those teams that this team doesn't quite have yet. They've got to fill the void of those things. And it's what made you feel like I thought Texas would win a national championship in 2005 before the season. And it was those elements that I think you saw again in 2009. All of those guys from that 08 team coming back. And it was like, oh, it meant something to have Sergio Kendall or a Jordan Shipley. Forget about Colt, but like the other pieces of that team. This Texas team still is, they lost a lot. They're losing a lot to the draft. Yeah. And I think certainly on the offensive side of the ball, it's just, you can't compare it to the 04 team coming back in 05.
By the way, Catch, just to continue your analogy and the visual, that 09 team could have used a couple more badasses on the offensive line walking around eating pizza. They could have. That really would have helped them out. that would have helped that group. That 09 offensive line and that 05 offensive line, two different teams.
There was just a cockiness that permeated in that team.
Dude.
Where, a guy like Casey Studdard, if you were to judge him for eating a piece of literally an entire pizza in the middle of drills. Okay, but when offensive line drills break out in the next 30 minutes, he'll remind you like why he is a starting offensive lineman. And I don't think this team has that. They just on the offensive line and at quarterback is such a stark difference.
Yeah. And you got to build that swagger up. That team had reason to have some of that swagger. This team it doesn't feel like that right now because they
do defensively, but I think
they're transitioning too much on offense to have that feel.
And I think the Colin Simmons of the world are growing into the roles that by the time we get to the season or the end of the season, it will be their defense. But it really wasn't their defense last year. Felt like Jahdae Barron's defense, and it felt like those older guys were the captains of that unit. Barron, Sorrell, even an Alfred Collins and a Verton Broughton. All of those guys just carried a certain amount of juice, and I think we're still that 4 to 05 team transitioned all of its leadership without losing. 04, you lose Derek Johnson, you lose Cedric Benson, but it never felt like there was it's a little different. It's a little different.
We appreciate the chat. All right, Catch. Obviously, we got buy or sell coming up. What else do we need to wrap up on the spring stuff?
Nothing.
Okay.
I think we're ready.
Yeah. By the way, just to your note on Jack Bowmeister, by the way, number 19, kids, your new punter. That detail that everybody's going to throw in at the end, Catch. It could be so important. Again, rewatching Texas, Ohio State, fine margins is what we've been talking about, right? They're driving to tie that game. That's not a 2-touchdown game. It's not what it was. They were driving to tie it. If an official had been paying attention when Ohio State's right tackle grabbed a hold of Colin Simmons and begged him not to kill his quarterback, that game could have been different. Field position matters, and Texas was horrible at that last year. And if you get a badass punter like this, like Catch, think about, there were a couple of those Nick Saban Bama teams that had like a Ray Guy level badass punter. That LSU team had a badass punter. If this dude's really good.
You felt it in the SEC championship game significantly.
Yes. Yeah. You think better field position could have helped you in Atlanta? You're in Atlanta, you're playing Georgia, and you got put in a sleeper hold where it came to field position because you decided not to care about punter. You didn't think punter was important. That could be a big deal this year. So I was glad to see the note that it's just like the Arch thing you brought up. Am I shocked that Arch looked great? No. Am I shocked that Bo Meester looked great? No. But I'm glad to hear it. And it is definitely worthy of note that we pointed out. So that was cool to see too, just on a special teams side. All right, Catch, you want to go first or second today?
I'll go second.
All righty. I didn't get a chance to ask you yesterday, so I'll do it today. Buy or sell number one, Sean Miller press conference. B+.
Sell, B. It wasn't a B+ for me. It
Straight
was.
Okay.
I'm not Anwar, right? Where Anwar, I think, indicated he fell asleep.
Anwar was bored. Bored was a word he used.
Like, I don't know that I feel that way, but I do understand kind of where he was coming from.
Okay.
No, it was a solid B. But look, nobody's talking about that press conference today.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, if it's a B+ bordering on an A, I think that would indicate. Hell, we haven't even brought it up until just now.
You're right. No, it's a good point.
So I think that's an indicator of like why I would feel that way.
All right, Catch, I got some legendary ladies with birthdays today, and here comes the first one. Buy or sell number two, Vicki Lawrence, the famous comedian, has a birthday today. You can tell me the name of her number one hit country song from 1973.
It wasn't the Harper Valley PTA,
No,
was it? I don't know.
It was not. It was not. Same kind of a feel, though, in a weird way. It was not that song.
So
The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia was Vicki
Is that
Lawrence.
right?
1973. Went number one in America and in Canada. Happy birthday to Vicki Lawrence today. All right, Catch, we're 30 days away. Buy or sell number three. 30 days until Texas and Texas A&M play baseball right now. Betting your own money. You'd pick a sweep.
sell. Sweeps are so hard. I know. I would not. That feels like a bet. I need some odds.
Right.
But if it's like $100 says that, no, I'm not doing that.
All right. These next two birthdays, Catch, I know you're in the fan club. Let's see how much you're in the fan club. Buy or sell number four, Paige Van Zant is 31 today. Her slap fighting record is 2-0-1. You'd watch a slap fighting event if she's involved.
So I'm not slap fighting guy.
I'm not either. I think we all need boundaries, and you and I apparently have found that same boundary. You and I will watch a lot of weird stuff that's involved in fighting. I can't watch people slap each other. I can't do it.
Every time, because you'll occasionally on accident see a clip.
Yep, I've seen a clip. That's about it.
And at no point do I think that's a rabbit hole I want to go down.
Nope. I don't even do the arm wrestling thing other than over the top. Other than that movie, I don't watch competitive arm wrestling.
The slap thing gives me the ick.
Me too. Yeah.
And I don't judge. I don't. It's not like I think anybody that watches slap wrestling is a heathen. It may be true, but I don't judge. But it's just not my thing.
No, I got you. All right, Catch, one of your favorites hits a big milestone today. Keira Knightley is 40 today. Prime on prime, Love Actually style. Keira, hotter than Denise Richards.
Bye. Yeah, no contest.
Oh, look at that. Look at that
me.
face.
For me.
You going to bring a man's game in or what? What are we doing?
And look, I mean, I get someone that would say Denise, we're not into the same type of women. We're into different women. And that's okay. For me, yes.
There you go. Happy birthday to Keira. 40 years old today. All right, Catch, that's my five.
Because I would have murdered a town of people. Love Actually era, Keira Knightley, to just have the opportunity to do what my friend Matt did in 1996 when we bumped into Shania Twain at the Alamo Dome.
Screamed and pointed.
Look! It's Shania Twain. And you know what she did? She smiled at him.
Yeah, she did.
Seriously. Not like the town of Waco, because that's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
But I'd wipe that town Troy off the map. One off I-35 on the way there. Like, there can't be that many people there to
What about Hillsboro? Would you take
No, that's too
Hillsboro
many
down?
people. Oh my God,
That's too many. Okay.
Yeah, I need one of those. I need one of those places that don't even show up on a map.
Okay. All right. So what about Italy on the way to Waxahachie? Just
Maybe.
Italy, Texas. Okay.
And understand, to all of these towns, it's nothing personal.
No.
We're offering a chance for me to see Keira Knightley in the flesh in her prime. Did you see? Anybody that's seen her in Love Actually understands. Look, in Love Actually, Rick, the guy from the zombie shows, literally is knocking on his best friend's door to fake a caroling session so that he can tell the wife of his best friend that he's secretly in love with her. That's the juice that she had in 2005.
Yep. Okay. All right.
2003, something like that.
Yeah. Real quick catch before you get started. Pete has jumped in with a weird buy or sell. I think he means right now, like today. Demi Moore hotter than Jennifer Aniston today.
I haven't seen Jennifer Aniston today.
Yeah. Pete, I'm selling. I'll go Aniston, but
I probably will as well. But I think Pete's asking that question because we did see Demi naked.
Right. And Demi's been around a lot lately.
Demi looked fantastic.
Award show. She looks great. I get it. All right, Catch. What do you got?
Buy or sell number one. You think Jonah Williams is perfectly fine playing baseball this spring?
That's interestingly phrased. Perfectly fine playing baseball this spring. Yeah, I'll buy. I think they'll bring him along like he needs to be brought along. And then I don't know that if he is the level of badass that you say he is at football, I think he'll still have his opportunity. So yeah, I'll buy.
Buy or sell number two. I've asked you a version of this question before, but taking the temperature of the room. Ryan Wingo leads the team in receptions in 2025. Let me fix that.
Yeah. I'm going to go with a capital L LASIK buy on this one. Let's do it, Ryan Wingo. Now you're seeing the ball even better, and I'm going to make him like the Jonte Cook of this year. All the expectations I had for Jonte, I'm going to transfer them over to Ryan Wingo, and I'm going to believe that the LASIK plus his talent is going to really come together. And yes, he leads the team in receptions this year. You don't wear number one as a receiver and not turn into a badass. You got to be the guy. So I'm going to take Wingo. Yes.
Interesting. I thought you might sell and go yards and leave overall volume of receptions to maybe DeAndre Moore, but I like it. Yeah. Buy or sell number three. Juju Watkinson's injury stains the entire way we'll remember the women's tournament.
Sell. I won't go that far. I like the word stains. It's a little heavy. It's just a reminder. I thought of you instantly. I thought but Ketch just talked about karma not being a real thing. And karma, it's just so sad, but sports don't care. Deserves don't matter. And
the most true statement in a movie that's ever been said is Clint Eastwood standing on top of Gene Hackman.
Yep.
And Gene Hackman's like, I was building a house. I don't deserve this. And Clint Eastwood, moments before he blew his face off, says, deserves ain't got nothing to do with it.
Ain't got nothing to do with it. And I get where you're going with the word stains, but I will sell it because I can't insult all the rest of the talent that's in this tournament and just say, well, Juju's out, so the rest no, there's a lot of talent left, and there's a lot of badass teams. Doesn't look like USC will be the team, but hey, it is what it is, man. I'll sell this one. Hopefully Juju gets better quickly.
I think you're right, but I used the words that I used for a specific purpose.
No, you did. I get what you're saying. A little strong, but I liked it. I like the phrase.
I wrote it exactly the way that I did.
You did. Yeah.
For the exact reason that I did, and you paid specific attention to the words.
Stains. That's just a great word to use.
Thank you.
Well done.
And buy or sell number four. We're going back-to-back White Lotus season 3 questions, okay?
Okay.
Before we get to our triple threat, hotter than.
Okay.
Buy or sell number 4. If the character Chelsea, so that's Rick's girlfriend.
Yes, gotcha.
If she dies on White Lotus season 3, we riot.
Yeah, I'll buy that. No reason for that to happen. A sweet soul. She's delivered some awesome lines in this season. She's bringing the comic relief, and I understand White Lotus fans know that anybody could get it in White Lotus in many ways. But based on everything she's brought, I'm with you.
She's an MVP candidate of the season for me.
She's terrific. The facial expressions are we talked about this off the show. The facial acting in White Lotus this season is top notch from multiple people. She's amazing. So I'm gonna buy. I'll flip out if she ends up not making it.
I've decided you could name any character in season 3, and I'm okay with them dying in the final episode. Again, the place could Jim Jones the whole place.
Yeah. In fact, here's the main reason she does not need to die, Catch, is she needs to be in season 4 somehow.
Oh my God.
She's got to make an appearance in season 4.
I kind of want both her and her new friend Chloe, like they need to now be traveling together.
Yes.
Greg's got to die. Chloe's got to take all his money, and Chloe and Chelsea just travel
on
in
his boat
seasons together, the way Greg and Gary have.
Yeah, take his boat and his money and show up in every season of that show they make from now on.
Say no more. I'm in.
That's it.
I'm in. It's like putting Eastwood in a movie back in the day.
Yep.
I'm in. Say no more.
That's it.
All right. I'm that way with Leo now. It's like, Leo's in a movie? What's he doing? He's climbing inside of a bear skin. I don't care. I'm in. It's Leo.
Yep. Leo's Leo.
All right. Triple threat, hotter than. Okay.
Here we go. Triple threat. Love a good triple threat.
And forgive me on the names. I've not said any of the actual real names ever out loud until this exact moment.
Okay.
Buy or sell number 5. Prime on Prime, which presumably is right now.
Mm-hmm.
Lalisa Manabal, who is Mook.
Help me out. Gotcha. Okay.
Is hotter than Charlotte LeBon, who is Chloe.
That's Chloe. Okay.
Who's hotter than Amy Lee Wood, who is Chelsea. So Mook, hotter than Chloe, who, by the way, is a French-Canadian model, presumably.
Good for her.
Who's hotter than Chelsea, who we love, but isn't the hottest of the young women on the show.
You did a lot of work there. You typed the names. You pronounced them very well. And I think you nailed it. It's an absolute buy. Yeah. I see. I think all guys are putting themselves in the role of the security guard, just thinking, God, I'd love her too. My God, would I love her too? Yes, I'm going to put her slightly above the Chloe level. And then, yes, Chloe above Chelsea. I totally agree there. Yeah, it's a buy. Good call.
I didn't say, I don't know that I agree with it.
Yeah, no, I think you got it. I think that's it.
Every time Charlotte LeBon, a.k.a. Chloe, is in a 2-piece on the boat.
Yeah.
My love for Mook does dwindle slightly.
Yeah, but dude, I know you, and as we've discussed plenty over the years, you and I have slightly different definitions.
Now, maybe if we saw Lalisa Manabal as Mook constantly in a bikini, flirting sex over the heads of college-age boys, kissing other women, and I'm
going to assume when all the clothing comes off, Lalisa's doing just fine, and that face of hers does some heavy lifting, and it puts her over these other two.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, my God, Chloe, there's a reason why Greg/Gary selected her.
No, she's beautiful. She is. She's beautiful. It's a great show. Great show. If you haven't checked out a little White Lotus. By the way, real quick, Catch, before speaking of great shows, before we wrap, are you a Dark Side of the Ring watcher?
I've seen a bunch of the episodes, but I can't say is there something new out?
New episode hit yesterday. Search it out.
What's left that they could even do?
Search it out on Vice. The rest of the episodes, I'm not sure what this is. Season 6. But the first one, they always try to grab you. It's Mick Foley, Hell in a Cell. They have Mick sit down and watch that match. They have Mick his wife, both kids, Jim Ross, Jim Cornette, and comments from The Undertaker throughout.
I'm in.
Oh, dude, I finished it this morning. It is phenomenal. It's great. It's wonderful, but it's also kind of sad at parts, and it's kind of, poignant, and it's kind of sobering. And man, it's incredible. So bravo to Vice for keeping that thing going. All right. Anything else we need to hit, Catch, before we close up?
No, I think we're good. I think we've had a good show.
Thank y'all for liking, subscribing, getting your notifications. Let me set you up for tomorrow, because we're going to have a big day tomorrow on Orange Bloods Live. There's another practice window available to the media. So we're going to get all over that thing, and here's how we're going to do it. About 9:30 tomorrow morning, we are going to hit you with a post-practice show. So for the rest of today, you got Football with Friends. We got an Outsiders for you tonight at 8:30. The Outsiders is back. What does Chance Mock think the 5 best basketball movies of all time are? We're going to find out tonight. Tomorrow morning at 9:30, Catch and I'll jump in right about the time practice is finishing. Anwar, Jason, Alex, all will be over at the 40 Acres again, and we'll be visiting with some of them, maybe all of them in that show. We'll have our normal 12 o'clock show tomorrow. We'll have the Football with Friends tomorrow as well. So a lot of good content, but make sure you join us for the post-practice show tomorrow morning, right about 9:30, right here on Orange Bloods Live. Thank y'all again for liking, subscribing, getting your notifications. If you didn't like on the way out, dadgummit, like it on the, or no, if you didn't like on the way in, like it on the way out. We would appreciate it. Y'all take care. We'll be back tomorrow. Hang on. One more thing.
I mean, I assume that Teen Wolf will be number 1 on Chance's list of all-time great basketball movies. So I'm just curious, like, if Teen Wolf is the greatest basketball movie ever made, and that's pretty indisputable. I'm talking Hoosiers.
All I will say, Catch, is that if Teen Wolf does not make Chance's top 5, I riot.
I mean, it's Teen Wolf, it's Hoosiers, right?
Hoosiers, right.
I think you've got to have
Then
Hoop Dreams on there.
Hoop Dreams. I mean,
He got
people might tell
Game.
me what he got game. Is White Men Can't Jump? Is it good enough to go in
White
the
Man
top
Can't
5?
Jump. It's either White Man Can't Jump or Above the Rim. But Teen
above
Wolf
the rim.
is the indisputable. It's number 1.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. If Scott Howard is not involved, I riot. I riot tonight.
Mick standing under the goal, catching the free. Oh, come on.
Come on.
It doesn't get better than that.
No,
that same layup being looped from 4 different angles. Like, come on. What are we talking about?
Oh, my God. It's fantastic.
The funny thing about those layup sequences, Chad, is right about the time you go, wait a minute. Before you can even finish the sentence, didn't I just see that same he does it again from another angle, and they use it as another bucket. So, like, every time you try to say the words, didn't I just see it happens again before you can finish the sentence?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Fantastic. Kids, if you don't know about it, you need to hit some Teen Wolf. Stay away from Teen Wolf 2. Teen Wolf original. That's the only one you need to
tolerate Teen Wolf 2.
Never sat through it. Still haven't sat through it. I dig Bateman, but I have not sat through that movie yet. I don't know that I need to. Y'all come.
You need to. I'm just saying I can tolerate it.
Y'all come see us tomorrow. Busy practice day on a Thursday. The 9:30 show as practice is ending, and then we'll do a 12 o'clock show tomorrow as well. Y'all take care. Thanks for supporting us. It's House Divided, and this is Orange Bloods Live. See ya.